on that part, make sure it's starting to work. And then when you call the meeting, Justin, before you call the meeting, let me start recording.
Yeah, it's 7 o'clock now, so go.
Okay, we are actually.
We've got a quorum, so.
Yeah, let me make sure the volume is off on the live site. I just saw it there. Okay, now I'm going to hit the record, and we are recording now. So we're live and recording, live on YouTube and recording.
Okay, with that, I will call the meeting to order, the CPC meeting to order of November 24th. Dan, would you, just to let everyone know, we are being live streamed on the city's site, on the Waltham Channel's site also, and we are being recorded for a future viewing date by the Waltham Channel, WCAC. With that, Dan, will you call the roll, please?
My pleasure. Sean seems to have not joined us yet, so absent at the moment. Amanda?
Present.
Loretta?
Present.
Bob?
Present.
Bill?
Present.
Oh, thank you. Tom?
Present.
I'm present. Erica?
Present.
And Justin?
Present.
That's good. We got 6, so we're good to go.
Okay. First on the item would be the minutes of the 3 meetings, September 15th, September 29th, and September 18th for approval. Julie sent them out. The first we'll do, I think we'll do them singularly. So the first would be the minutes of the September 15th meeting. Has everybody read them?
Yes.
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 And if they have, would they a motion
So
Motion
moved.
to approve.
as presented,
Yes.
seconded?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
It looks like Sean may have joined us. There's a phone number there.
I see it
I
popping
am
up.
here,
Yeah.
yes. Yep.
Great.
John, did you approve? Did you approve on those minutes too?
Yes, I just caught that. I did read over the minutes,
Great.
so I did vote aye on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next is the meeting of September 29th.
You looking for a motion?
I am.
So moved.
As
Second.
presented, Tom?
Yes.
Second.
Wait, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. And the last one is the meeting of November 18th.
Motion to approve the minutes of November 18th as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you for that. Okay. Next on the list, the new Korean church, New Light Korean church application. I see Joshua is on the call. Joshua, did you get our the decision from the law department?
I did. I'm here to speak about that and also ask a couple of questions.
For those, I don't know that everybody knows, but the law department opinion came back that this project is not eligible for a couple of reasons. One, the biggest one is it was done in looking for an arrearage, and they cannot pay in arrearage according to the way the law department reads the statute. Go ahead, Joshua.
Okay. So I contacted the law department and I also contacted Julie about this issue because I'm pretty sure when we applied the last meeting, we clarified that we had actually applied for the grant before the pandemic actually hit, and everything was pushed back because of the pandemic. There were no CPC meetings. So I was wondering, is that still considered arrearage? Because I think we have enough reason to think that we have a special circumstance here.
I
don't know.
Julie, do you have, Julie, you there? Julie, you want to unmute?
Sorry, I was on the YouTube channel. I was watching there.
Do,
I
Do-
thought Luke said that we couldn't proceed.
that's what he did, but Joshua was saying that the application was in prior. I'm not, I don't have records of that, and I don't know, and I don't,
I think that, if I may,
go ahead, Dan.
I think the distinction was that the money was already spent before the application was approved
Correct.
and went through the system such was there. And that's the technicality, from my understanding from what we got back from the law department.
Right, but that technicality isn't a very gracious one then, because we were forced to make repairs on our building because the city had shut our building down. So
Well, it was shut down for public safety. That's what the reason was. There's no
right, that was the
question.
reason, but they said they wouldn't open the building unless we made the necessary repairs.
So again, because of public safety.
Okay, and then that's my first issue. The second issue I have too, then, from what I heard from, I believe the gentleman's name was Luke, the CPC wouldn't grant funds to a religious organization in the first place.
I don't remember that, and that's not, I think, I don't remember seeing that, Joshua, because we have, what it is generally it's with community outreach or usage. That's my understanding, and it's strictly my understanding because I've seen a couple of different churches get funding. So I don't believe if that's the case, it would be the correct one, to be quite candid with you.
Right. Then I hope everyone here can understand their grievances. We've supplied an application before the pandemic even hit, and that was put on hold by the committee because they said that we didn't have enough information, or that they wanted a second opinion, or they wanted a report saying that the steeple is structurally sound, which we did provide. But we couldn't go ahead with the repairs because CPC, they weren't holding meetings for months. And now the law department is brought into this and saying that we're not eligible for this fund because of a repair that we were actually forced to make in order to continue using our building during this time. So I don't think this is completely fair for us.
So
Well,
can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Bill.
So when it was, when we requested the determination from the law department, were they aware that it had been in the works, it had been applied for? Are they aware of the dates? Because I mean, we can talk tonight, and I understand the argument. I'm sympathetic to the situation. You know, the corona thing has kind of squirrelied everything up. But you know, given that the law department knows the dates of submission and the dates of shutdowns and things, would they have made a different decision and advised us as the CPC? Would they have advised us differently? And I think the only way to find that out is to see what they reviewed. Were they aware of that date of submission, and would that change their determination? I think that's where we are. Does that make sense, Justin?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why I was asking. Julie, do we have a date of the application?
But more importantly, does the law department know that date?
Or
And
do
based
we
on
have
that?
the date?
Yeah.
Do we have the date though?
Yeah, let me look it up. Hold on a minute, okay?
Thank you.
They came before our very last meeting, if I'm not right, Justin, correct?
Correct.
In February.
Yes.
February.
Yeah. And
And we asked them to go back. We met at Government Center, correct?
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
and
So
And I
we
was
asked,
not at that meeting.
Right.
we asked,
I
correct, you were not, you were away. We asked for more information.
and
And we-
then I
we
think
had-
the other. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we had said that we would be willing to pay for a feasibility study if you came back with a proposal for a feasibility study. I think that was my
Exactly.
memory.
Oh,
As a matter
right.
of fact, you ran the meeting. Yep,
Yeah, I ran the meeting. Yeah.
correct. Okay. You know what? I think what Bill says makes sense. I mean, we should probably ask them for the dates if we don't have them available.
Well, that's what I'm getting the date from Julie, and then we can go back. If it was a feasibility study, that's a different story completely. So we're gonna have to do some research on this, Josh, to be quite honest with you. But we can certainly go back to law department and find out what their, because again, we're governed by the law department, Josh. Which they make a decision. We have to live by. That's what we have them for. So,
Justin, and does it make sense that that Joshua put into a letter or something what the specific grievances are, what the specific arguments are? Because the second argument, and I don't want to reiterate it, I forget exactly how it was worded. The second argument, I'm a little foggy on that one as well. But if that were spelled out in writing and we could present it, or you present it, I'd probably go through us, present it to the law department and say, this is what we're hearing on this side, and just want to get the law department's take on or clarification on this. Does that make sense to kind of get it in writing?
it certainly could. Yeah, why don't you do that? That's a good idea, Bill. Why don't you do that, Josh? And get it to Julie.
And then we can present it to the law department and say, hey, this is what we're hearing. We're not sure what your decision
Does this change anything?
to address these.
Yeah, I mean, he makes a great argument. I mean, we were at that meeting and we asked him simply to go back.
Okay, so if I could just clarify what was said now, if we can just put into writing our grievances with the decision to the law department, and we can go from there and see what,
No,
if
it's
this
gotta
changes
be,
anything.
Josh, it's got to be addressed to, it's got to be addressed to the CPC for us to submit to the law department.
Right, so address it to the CPC so that the CPC can give it to the law department, and we'll see if that decision changes
Correct.
anything.
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
then would that be okay for me to just get started on right away?
Yeah,
I would, yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
How much money did you put out, Josh, if I may ask?
For the feasibility report or for the entire
No.
project?
For the actual work that you had done,
We had around 145,000.
that you put into the building to make it safe, according to the
Yes.
building department?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
Then,
Josh, we received your first application on February 4th, if you want to make note of that.
Got it. Okay, then we as an entity will go ahead and we'll proceed with filing our letter, and we'll send that over to Julie, and she'll present it to the law department as the CPC representative.
Josh, do you have documentation from the city telling you that you had to make those repairs at that time in order to proceed?
Yes, we actually have.
Keep the building open?
Yeah, we have they taped it on our door, so we still have that actually.
Yeah, that's important. I think one of the points that is important here is that I don't think there's a whole lot of precedent for funds being distributed after the work was done, or for us to approve things after the work was done. Now it's a lousy thing for you, but it's very circumstantial given the COVID thing. So I think that as eloquently as you could state that would help your case.
Okay. We'll
that's a sticking point. The COVID thing is a big variable in this.
Mhm.
And get the dates right, get the the application date right, get the repair date, get the mandate from the city, basically telling you had to repair the building in order to make it functional for public use. I think all those variables are big in this.
Yeah, I would almost organize it in a timeline of events. I mean, you're essentially presenting a case almost like you're in court to, explain how things played out.
Julie,
Sure.
I have a question for Julie. Were they on the March agenda? Did we have a March agenda that we didn't have?
Yes, they should have been on there because we were continuing them because they had to get
Okay.
more information in the second quote.
So that I think is relevant as well, that we were going to have a meeting in March and we expected to hear from them in March, and then the world just kind of blew up.
Correct, yes.
Right,
I
sure.
think
Then,
one of the big obstacles is, again, we're making payments after the repairs were done. It's like,
You there, Bobby?
it's almost like the cart before the horse. But again, the COVID, kind of gives you a little oomph behind that.
right. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but as of now, the CPC as a committee can't make any decisions or push for one thing over the other at this time.
We have been told you're ineligible by the law
Okay.
department.
Right.
So that disqualifies it, period.
Sure. And excuse me if my apologies if I came out strong, but we've been in this process for months now, and it seems like we're just chasing after false leads, and we're told to do this and told to do that. And at one point, we have to begin to wonder, do these people actually want to help us? Because we have this historical building, right, that title. And if that doesn't do us any good, then there's actually no reason for us to hold on to that. Those are the conversations that come up in the church. So we're just wondering, are people trying? Can they help us? Are they willing to help us? And if that's the case, then we're willing to go as far as we need to for this.
Well, I just want to respond to that quick. We were told by the law department that it's a dead deal, and we're here right now presenting a way to bring it back alive. So I think what you're hearing from this committee here is that, we're willing to work with it, and we see the hiccup with COVID, and we all understand it. So we're taking another shot at it, I think, with you here.
Sure. And we appreciate that.
I will also say that if this project
Okay,
isn't,
so you'll
go on, Justin.
No, you'll get the letter to Julie and we'll submit it to the law department and see if they rule differently. That's what it comes down to, Josh. Go ahead, Erica. I didn't mean to.
I was just going to say, if this project isn't fundable, there may be other projects that are. Like, this might be, if this is a done deal with the law department, you still have a historic building. If there are other projects that are critical for you, we would still be, I'm sure, willing to entertain a feasibility study for you to help you address concerns with that building and start to pick off projects that might be more urgent versus less. That would definitely be something. It would be a new application. It would be a brand new start, and it wouldn't help you with the tower, but it is, it doesn't preclude you from applying for other funds.
Sure.
And I'm generally supportive of this project, so.
Thank you.
Honestly, I think the board is supportive of it.
And did anybody hear Erica's last?
Yeah, we heard
Or is it
her.
me?
It's fine. I think your connection, Justin, I think your connection's a little flaky. Oh, looks like you got froze again. Yeah. If you want, you might,
Am I there now?
you're there now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Josh, does that answer your questions?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, on to Metro West CD Waltham Armory application. Is there someone here represent? Looks like Jennifer's here. Jennifer,
Yes.
go ahead.
All right. Good evening. Thank you. I also want to just recognize from our staff, Claire has been working with us on this application, and I want to thank Daria at Watch, who's also been really helping move this along over the last few months. So quickly, I just want to remind folks that there are 4 secret ingredients to making an affordable housing project happen. The first ingredient is a site. It all begins with a location. The second ingredient is local funding. Doesn't happen without local money. The third ingredient is zoning. In most cases, you cannot build anything without some kind of zoning relief, and that is certainly true in a lot of Waltham. And then the fourth ingredient is state and possibly federal funding. So those are the four things that we look for when we are trying to put together an affordable housing development. And over the last 10 years, we have been able to do that in 4 towns. We've put together about 161 units of affordable housing, investing over $57 million in public and private funds in those units. So as many of you know, we've been looking in Waltham for a long time, and in fact have looked at the Armory a few times. But we now feel that we've got a truly doable project. It is calling for the creation of 23 units of affordable housing within the historic structure of the Armory. It would include a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. All would be eligible to households at or below 60% of the area median income. So that's a lower income target than, for example, your inclusionary zoning would get, or other Chapter 40B projects would get as well. So our ask is a big one. We're asking for $5 million. That does, though, leverage an extra $8 million from state, federal, and private resources. And the only other thing I will add, in case you didn't see it, is we do have the support for the project of the Waltham Historical Commission. I'm not going to belabor the point. It's a fabulous project. You all know that. So I'm happy to take questions.
Questions from the committee?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. What's the current status with the owner of the building? Again, could you quickly review that and the cost that, or what they want to sell it for to Metro West?
Sure. So we have an informal agreement for a $3.5 million acquisition.
Right. Okay. And is there a timeline on that?
Not really. The owner has suggested that sort of the first folks who come to him with $3.5 million wins, but he is not actively selling it. It is not, there's not a for sale sign on it. I think he would be willing to work with us through the zoning process, because of course we don't really want to buy the building. And in fact, we wouldn't buy the building until we actually had our zoning approvals, which, is many, many months away from now. So I think that once we ideally got CPC approval and then city council approval for the funds, then we would execute an actual purchase and sale agreement with the owner, and we wouldn't actually purchase it until zoning approvals, which I would expect would be next summer at the earliest.
So after it would, let's say if it goes through CPC, it goes to city council and passes all through there, then you'd make a formal offer, and that would be in the offer stage of property.
Correct.
Okay.
Jen, can I ask a question? Maybe a couple questions. So you say zoning and you mentioned 40B. What are we doing? You think it's going to be a 40B and go around zoning, or you think we're going to go through and change zoning?
No, I think Chapter 40B is the easier path.
Yeah.
And faster path.
So if it ends up 40B, and maybe this was in the material and I missed it, are we looking at rental units here or for sale units? So they're all-
These would be rental units, primarily because that's where the largest pockets of state and federal resources are, including historic tax credits, which are only available to rental projects.
And all of the units would be considered affordable?
That's correct.
So we get 100% of those units towards the count of affordable units.
Correct.
That's all I have for now.
If I may,
Go ahead.
where is the rest of the money going to come from?
Sure. So in your package, there is a development budget. About $2.5 million would come from the federal low-income housing tax credit program, affectionately called LIHTC. There is also historic tax credits from both the federal government and state government. So that's approximately another $2 million. Because there are 23 rental units and we'll be collecting rent, we are able to go borrow money and take out a loan of about $2.5 million. And then we need about 1.1 million additional funds from the state through a variety. It could be from any one of a number of their subsidy programs, the home program, the Housing Stabilization Fund, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. There are 3 or 4 that we could ask for. But the biggest chunks would be from the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program and the Historic Tax Credit Program.
Okay.
I have a question
Yeah, Erica.
about, so I noticed in the feasibility study, there were 2 options. One would be for families and one would be for veterans and seniors. Do you have a sense, and maybe this is a question for Daria or someone else, which is the greater need in Waltham? I almost said Framingham, sorry. That's my other hat.
I don't have a super answer to that, except to say that there is tremendous demand for both, probably. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
That's a given.
Yeah.
That's a given. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I think the
Okay,
way the
thank you.
proposal is, it has
Uh,
it has multiple bedrooms. It has many options.
Amanda.
So on that point that Erica made on the families versus veterans or having a combination, is there any ratio or choice that would help in getting additional funding if it's for veterans or one or the other?
Well, curiously, making the project 100% veterans complicates the financing because there are fewer resources, sadly, and more obligation. So there's less money and more strings. What I think would be a better compromise path for this project would be something that we were able to do on our project in Norwell, which is, as you may recall, the City of Waltham will be allowed to establish a 70% local preference for this project. So of the 23 units, we could set aside 16 for Waltham, people who live in Waltham currently or work in Waltham or whose children attend Waltham schools. Of that 70%, we could then have a 25% veterans preference. So that would result in 4 units being available for Waltham-based veterans. So it's not quite, you know, it's not quite all the bells and whistles that a veterans project would have, but it's probably easier and faster to finance and to build out, and would still meet the needs of some veterans.
This commission wouldn't necessarily, I mean, we could opine on it, but it wouldn't be up to this commission's decision as to what the mix would be or any of that stuff. That ends up coming out of the zoning discussion and or 40B discussion. I mean, we're just really looking at, you know, the $5 million for this structure with, you know, the idea of it being rental to people that need it. Can I just ask a
ahead.
question on the historic side of things? And Sean, I don't know, maybe if you've had conversations with the Historic Commission on this. They are, I would imagine, in favor of it. It's a great building to preserve. To what point, and I know we're cutting in new windows and doing all kinds of different things to make it, you know, more habitable, you know, per codes and everything. To what extent will those physical changes to the building, you know, compromise it with any state historic stuff? It's kind of a dicey question, but do we run the risk of losing historic support at the state level if we make Swiss cheese out of this building, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, because of the historic restriction that is already on the building, we can't.
Correct.
They won't
Correct.
let us. But certainly the design we've proposed was reviewed and is supported by the Waltham Historical Commission.
Yeah.
Next would be to reach out to the State Historical Commission, obviously. And then as we fine tune the plans, because right now they're pretty preliminary. So as we have iterative drawings, we'd have to get their review and approval all along the way.
Okay, so at the state level, the State Historic Commission level, that there may be a situation, this is a long shot, and I know we're really early on in it, I know these things play out. You know, we have, was it 27 units or whatever it was for units now, that might get whittled down as we go through historic and the numbers may change. I don't know that it's for us to figure that out right now, but just how my brain works.
Yes,
Okay,
certainly the process with the state will be a negotiation for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Jen,
Anyone else?
I have a couple of comments. The first of which, going back to zoning and the 40B statement. Right now, there's two online 40B projects in the city. And when they're completed, I think that we will be in ratio for affordable housing. And therefore, the probability that your 40B won't come to fruition because there will be no need for it. Now, I'm not an expert on 40B, but I've heard some talk about that, and so I don't know how that would affect the project if it was no longer eligible for 40B, or if the city was no longer obligated to do 40B. The second comment I have is you take the $12,900,000 divided into the 23 units, and you're at $560,000 a unit, which earlier you had stated that you'd done 161 units at $57 million. And that is significantly lower than 560. As a matter of fact, the cost comes to about $356,000 and change. So the cost here is, I think it's quite high relative to what you've done in the past. Any comment on that?
Sure, absolutely. So first on the 40B, there are 3 ways to get a comprehensive permit under Chapter 40B. One is the method that you're familiar with, which is the developer swoops in and just forces their way into the community because it's under 10%. The second is called a friendly 40B, which is where the municipality and the developer negotiate the process and the project collaboratively. The third is actually when you are anticipating that your project is going to receive state subsidies. Then you can also use Chapter 40B. So this project will fall under that sort of pathway under Chapter 40B. So it's very much still a tool for communities to use even after they hit that 10% threshold. And we have confirmed with the
What's
mayor.
What's the advantage there?
Well,
What's
so
the
right,
advantage there, Jen?
yeah, I mean, this project is in a Residence B zone. So things that are allowed are 2-family houses, windmills, I found out, churches, an assisted living facility, a couple of other interesting things. Multifamily housing is not. So we would, for use alone, we would need to get a variance, or we would need to change the zoning for that site. And then there's probably other things that won't comply. For example, parking may not comply, setbacks may not comply, open space requirements we may not be able to comply with. So Chapter 40B in kind of one fell swoop lets you submit one request for sort of forgiveness for all those things. And it's pretty straightforward because the timing is stipulated by state law, the number of hearings that are required, the number of days that people have to respond, et cetera. So it kind of is, it's a clear path for zoning. Money. So this is an expensive project because the sales price is very high. We are paying a premium for this site, in part because it's available and we want it. And prices go up when you want things. We're also, it's going to be an expensive project because of the historic restriction and the constraints on the site. Yeah, I'm proud of our total development cost per unit of our total portfolio, and this will whack that number. But part of why our number is a good one overall is because of projects like the project in Norwell, where the town gave us the property for $100. So that brings down our average. It also includes some acquisition of existing rental housing stock, which we just renovated. So those projects always are cheaper per unit than new construction on land you had to pay premium value for. But we're willing to do it anyway. Even though it's going to screw up our numbers, we're willing to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so do we know where Waltham is on the affordable percentage scale at this point?
Last I knew it was about 7%, 7.7.
7.778. That's where I heard it.
Okay, and so what is, and what, turning that, it's 10 is the number that you're supposed to, the goal to get over 10 as a minimum. And that's only a minimum, obviously.
Well, 10 gets you out of the 40B.
Oh, thank you. Out of the 40B. Okay, yeah. Not that you should necessarily stop there, but what is the, turning that into number of units, so that's 2.22% left to go. What does that turn into actual number of units in Waltham? Do we know what that would need to be created to get to the 10% for 40B?
You know, Dan, I don't know that, but I'm guessing it's a pretty big number because it's 10% of your total housing stock,
right?
Which is probably, I don't know, 28,000 units in.
Yeah, that's right. Because I once heard it was like 30,000 ballpark, so something like that. So 10% of 30,000 is 3,000, and so we're at. Okay, I have to do some math. I can't do it in my head.
Right.
Well, it just, as Bob had said, there's one 40B up on Second Avenue that's in the digging in ground right now. The other one is scheduled to be approved. That will take us over, according to all of the the city stats will take us over the 10%. Just to let everybody know. So we will.
Which could affect your application, Jen.
Well, hold on a second. Does it, because if you're using the state,
It does.
Nope, it doesn't, because I'm not using the hostel route. I'm not coming to you tonight or to anyone in Waltham and saying, ha, you're under 10%.
Jen,
We can
I
do
know
what
that.
we want to.
This is just for edification. I know you're not. You're going for a friendly 40B, which I understand completely. But the other two projects get us to the 10%. Anything else would have to be a friendly 40 because it wouldn't be accepted.
Well, I think it would have to. Well, it would have to be a 40 friendly B. I think Justin, you just said this because we're giving you $5 million to do it. So we're part of there. You know, it's so.
Good point.
Yeah.
But Jen,
$5 million's pretty friendly.
Who rules on the 40B? You know, who would be the determining body to say, okay, Jen, your application right now, you know, Waltham is not under the 40B cloud. Who would rule and say, okay, your friendly 40B is accepted or denied?
The Zoning Board of Appeals.
The city of Waltham.
Yeah.
Yeah, ultimately the zoning board makes the call on the whole comprehensive permit, which is what 40B is. And they get a comprehensive permit from the whole city, but it may be, as we're going through this process, whatever we decide here is going to have to go through city council in order to get the 5 million. So there'll be a discussion there as to whether they want to accept this as a 40B, and they'll likely go to the law department and say, hey, are we in safe harbor, which is 10% or more, or not? And they'll more than likely start saying, well, you know, we're at 11% after these other two projects, so we want X, Y, and Z out of the armory. And it may be all veterans, or it may be whatever it may be, they say. But the zoning board will ultimately do all the math and let us know, maybe retroactively, but certainly let the city council know before any money is given, where we stand and what the leverage is on all the numbers. I've done a couple of 40Bs.
so I just reading in the chat that there's a message, the mayor has confirmed that this project would be eligible for 40B. So presumably mayor probably knows something.
Well, even if we're over 10%, it can still come in as a 40B.
No question. Absolutely.
Yeah. So and again, I think the point I'm trying to make is we don't have to stop at 10%. That's a minimum just for the 40B thing.
Yeah.
And I guess which kind of leads into my next question is, compared to all the funding we have done so far for all projects, I wish I should have asked this asked this earlier before the meeting and possibly get it out of the system. How much have we spent on open space, historic, and on housing already? I know we haven't spent a whole lot on housing. And obviously we spent a whole lot on open space recreation because we bought the Fernald, and then there's also the money for the farm. So those were two big ticket items here. So I think 5 million here brings it up, a commitment to do housing to a level that is commensurate with how we've spent money in other places. Plus, a lot of people have been saying, let's do some real affordable housing instead of just voucher programs and stuff. So I guess I'm just sort of making a comment here that let's not get sidetracked by the 40B aspect and look at it as the project. What, is this something that we want to do?
Erica.
I want to echo what Dan said. I think that was excellently stated. We have spent a lot of money on open space in Waltham, and I like the idea that, like you're saying, to spend some money on some significant money on housing. I like this project also because it kills two birds with one stone for this committee, and it really preserves and reuses for a a long-term use, the Armory building, and it adds some value to the community in affordable housing.
Yeah, Dan, on that point, it almost seems like we should, as a commission, have a bit of a pie chart that says, that we could even look at quickly and say, hey, we're really lagging behind. Or even when we present something to city council and say, hey, we approve this project, because this is what it makes our pie chart look like. The pie chart being open space, residential, historic preservation.
Right.
Yeah.
That gives us some argument to say, hey, we haven't spent any money on something like this, and it would fulfill the pie chart. Because we are obligated to spend money on certain things.
Erica,
One more question so would the units be in perpetuity or would they expire?
Which is another great thing about Chapter 40B
Yes.
is it's in perpetuity.
Okay, I should know that.
And that actually leads into the next question. I'm sorry, Tom, you had something.
yeah, Tommy.
I do. As far as the pie chart, I mean, we can figure out, we've spent a lot more money on open space and recreation, but it still needs to make sense to, if we're going to give $5 million, maybe we could do 50 apartments for $5 million. Just to me, I'm stuck on $545,000 a unit. I think and I've been advocating, we are way behind on housing, way behind. I just think that 545 a unit or 535 units seems a lot of money. We could do better. I think some other place. It just, to me, doesn't make business sense because we're behind to throw $5 million on something that's really worth $2 million in my mind. And that's just quick math. One man's opinion, but that's because we're behind doesn't mean we should spend money recklessly to try to catch up. That's throwing good money in not so good places.
Which brings me to a question. You got a $3.5 million acquisition cost with a $2.9 million appraisal. How do you justify it?
That's a good question, Justin. We know that public lenders can't lend or contribute, I should say, their funds in excess of the appraised value. So what we would propose to the owner is that we will buy it for the appraised value, or we'll enter, into a purchase and sale agreement to purchase it at the appraised value. Should we be able to get a new appraisal after the awarding of the comprehensive permit?
Whoa. That wouldn't work for me.
Well, hear me out.
Now all of a sudden you've gone and made his piece of property more valuable.
I understand that, but if he won't sell it to me for $2.9 million because he thinks it's worth 3.5, we all lose.
No, we don't.
I know it's frustrating.
Let me ask you a question. Have you looked at the Fernald at all to build there, to put something there?
I'm sorry, Justin.
I don't think it's funny when you're talking $5 million.
Well, as soon as the mayor puts a for sale sign on Fernald, I'm in. But, until then, I feel like, you're going to wait 20 more years for something to happen at Fernald.
Okay, speaking of that, speaking of the mayor, has anybody from the city on board on this? You've got your application and it says you've informed the ward councilors and immediate abutters in the winter of 2020. Is any councilor on board?
Yes.
I don't see. I saw 11 in favor of, and I didn't see any councilor or any city, the mayor. Can you tell me who's in favor?
Daria can.
Thanks, Justin. That's a good point. We have been in touch with the mayor. She has expressed to us more than once that she's in favor of turning the Armory into affordable housing. And I think if we go to the comment section of the YouTube, which I think is the public hearing portion, I believe there's at least the ward councilors present there to show his support.
Julie, can we do that?
Yeah, I've been reading them. Let me check to see.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, everyone wants to see affordable housing done in the city. And I personally feel like I'd love to see that building used for something. It's been, how many, I don't know, it's probably 50 years it's been vacant and an eyesore. I guess, well, again, the cost of it is just, it just seems like it's just out of whack.
Well, let me address this issue. I believe, and I'm sure Jen would maybe say it better, but in my head, it's pretty clear. If we're putting 5 million into this project, I just divided 5 by 23 units, and that's 217,000 and change per unit.
That's just what we're putting in though, Dan.
Yeah, right. That's the point. We're only putting in 230K and change, and there's all this funding from state and Fed to make it happen.
Oh, with the except, there's a $2,262,000 mortgage on top of that.
Okay.
So now you're at hard money, $7,262,000.
Wait a second, who's get the mortgage?
They've got to go out and get it.
Well, that's Metro West.
Yeah, but now that's hard money. That's hard money.
Right. But I think people are getting hung up on that the number. Listen, I'm not trying to diminish over half a mil per unit as not a large number. Okay, it is expensive, expensive project, and Jen has mentioned that. But the point of the thing is the 5 million we put in, which is only 217 and change K per unit, is then leveraged by all this other money. And yes, if there was other places to do, but I don't know if there's any other places to do 23 units in Waltham. Can anybody here say there's another place in Waltham to do 23 units?
No, but that's not
right now in apartments.
Well, Tom, I mean, if there's not another place,
I mean, people bring projects to us to make sense. We don't go out to make sense. I mean, to me, if we put $5 million, I'd rather see 50 units. Now that makes great sense.
So wouldn't I? Absolutely.
I mean, you know, Justin mentioned the Fresnel. You know, there are buildings up there. They probably aren't going to cost 3.5 million to buy, and maybe they could do with.
The city owns it. You could probably get it for $1.
That's my point. Let's you know, if Middlesex could go up there, or what's the name of their corporation, and take a peek. I mean, believe me, I know we're behind, and I just don't want to make a decision because we're behind. I mean, I think we could do a whole lot better than 23 units for $5 million of taxpayers' money.
Jen, who would manage the project once it's built? I don't want to go too far down the road, but.
Sure. Well, we would own and operate it in perpetuity. Our day-to-day property management is handled by Maloney Properties, which is also the company that does the St. Mary's School.
In Waltham.
In Waltham, yep.
So there's a proven track record there.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Jen, would the current owner be willing to stay in as an equity partner for some period of time until things, you know, till there's a good point where he could get a buyout of, you know, say stays in as 10% in exchange for the difference between the appraised and the sale value? I've done that.
Possibly. It gets a little hard with the tax credits because there's already investors in the mix, but we'll see. Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I mean, he owns title on the property, so he stays in as an equity partner, and you have on a lot of other things, getting loans and stuff, you know, some leverage, but again, tax credits and that stuff, I don't know how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is always going to be a theoretical and mythological better project out there. Always. But what we have today is the project we have today, and we have this project to consider. Could there be other better opportunities in the future? Sure. And we'll come back and talk to you about those projects when they actually materialize. But until then, this is what we've got. It's the best possible scenario available, largely because it's the only one. And we can sit back and lament it or sit back and wait for more. But I think, you know, the track record is you don't get many options on affordable housing developments in Waltham. So we should take this one.
Would we consider giving $5 million to this building to preserve the building? Or $1 million or $2 million to preserve this building as what it is? And then can we say, okay, well, we put $5 million to preserve the building. Oh, and by the way, we get 23 units out of it too. I don't think it's that numbers, but could we get there? I'm not talking with the huge end. I'm talking to the, the CPC here.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. I'm just thinking, I'm wrestling it with myself.
Well, you know, if we give $5 million here, we give $1 million for a chimney. We get any housing out of that?
Yeah, no kidding.
That's true.
Bird nests.
And again, I have to let go of that, but.
I think that was a mistake on the committee's part. I mean, that again, to my point, because we did that and we're behind on housing, did we make more mistakes of taxpayers' money? I mean, I think that was a travesty to give $1 million to a chimney that doesn't even fire.
Well, somebody made the point that it's about $217,000 a unit taxpayer money for 23 units, which, okay, that's actually reasonable.
Yeah,
that's reasonable, but that's not the end game.
That's not the end
that's
game.
arguing.
But that's the contribution to the city, and we're doing, you know, I think we're doing good by that. And the other point is, you know, as Jen has said, there's no other projects, and there has not been any other projects for the last 6 or 7 years. And that building is an eyesore. It is a detriment to the community. And, you know, rehabbing it and putting housing in there is a positive thing. So, I mean, there's many, many variables in the equation, and you can look at it at many, many different ways. And I think we're doing that now. But
I just want to jump in and say, in the 2 or 3 years I've been on this committee, I haven't seen a better, more thought out housing project. I think that, you know, we did a nice job with the voucher program, but I think this is the most comprehensive development project I've seen come through. And I may be wrong, Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, or Justin, but I do feel like 217 per person per unit is reasonable for taxpayer money, and these projects don't happen without you know, a bunch of, there's got to be a stack of funding that makes it possible, or it doesn't happen and the building continues to deteriorate and we have 23 less units of housing in Waltham.
I just want to bring up as the clerk, I just noticed that Councillor Paz has just joined the meeting, the Zoom meeting.
He's been on for a while.
Okay, well, I just showed up on my screen.
Hello?
Hold on a second, Jonathan, 1 second. So we have to officially allow him to speak at this point, or?
When we open it, Dan, it's still to the committee.
It's still.
I haven't opened it to the general public yet.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Well, I mean.
Any
other
question?
I had another technical question.
Shoot.
So Metro West would own the building. If it's 100% affordable, there would be a deed restriction. Who would own the deed restriction again?
Who would own it? Well, the state of Massachusetts would have a deed restriction, and probably the city of Waltham would be a co-signer to that deed restriction.
Okay, thank you. I think that's my last question for the moment.
All right, no other questions? Councilor Paz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, I had a hard time getting on the call for some reason, but thank you everyone for the opportunity to speak. I just think this is one of the few chances we have to respond, especially when the housing crisis is in such dire shape because of this pandemic. And I think the fact that we haven't talked about just how dire of a time this is, like the price is never going to be great, but this is an opportunity to invest in affordable housing that I think a good portion of the public has been asking for and been in favor for. And folks in Ward 9 specifically spoke to this. Anytime we talk about, actual things the city can do to benefit the public at large, it's always affordable housing. Now, I don't think that this is like a said and done deal, but I think we absolutely, if we have the opportunity to actually have affordable homes, 23 in perpetuity, we are way ahead of the game because we have been behind on that particular front. So I just really urge folks to really think about this as an investment in the long run, because it will not come cheap, but it's also, we pay a higher price when we don't address the housing shortage and the housing crisis that we're in. So just respectfully, we can just think about, actual public health issues at large. When we think about not investing in affordable housing, that has costs and benefits if we do so now. It's 2020, we can make a lot of excuses to not invest, but I think this is absolutely a time to really consider what's in front of us. Thank you.
Are you the counselor? Are you the counselor?
Yes,
Councilor Paz?
I represent Ward 9. That armory is in Ward 9.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Anyone else that wants to go? Dan, let me ask. I'll come back. Let me ask anybody else who wants to speak in favor of, and we can ask questions after this. Anybody else like to speak in favor of the proposal? No one? Okay, with that, anybody want to speak opposed to the proposal? Okay, seeing none. Anybody have any questions in a neutral position? Seeing none, I'll close that and open it back up to the board. Dan, you had a question. The public hearing's closed.
It's actually a comment, and please correct me if I have this wrong, but my recollection is that your adversarial 40Bs, the affordable percentage ends after a certain length of time. Is that not correct? Not anymore?
No, that's in perpetuity.
Also? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
What I think you're referring to is some of these special permits were 25 or 30 years. That ends after that. But if it's a 40B, it's in perpetuity.
Okay, thank you. There was some special permit stuff. That's right. Okay.
Any other
Maybe
questions? Go ahead.
a quick question, and maybe it's an analysis that may help. And I know the equation isn't perfect, but is there the tax base that's going to be generated from this building in the future is going to be a lot more than it is today, I would suspect. Understanding that, we're going to have school-age children and such going, they're going to be living in this, depending on what the actual unit mix is. But is there an analysis here that would say that this building will generate more taxes for the city, and how that would maybe affect decisions? I mean, it can't be paying much in taxes now.
Yeah, it's only assessed, I think, at 700,000.
I mean, what is the zone? I mean, what is, I don't even know what it's considered. Armory, how many I don't know what you tax an armory.
Yes, I don't know. Yeah. And to be honest, we often ask for some dispensation on local property tax. So I wouldn't want to overpromise how much revenue this will generate, but it will certainly generate more than an empty building is.
Yeah. It'll also cost school-age children and fire protection, all this other stuff. So, maybe it's an analysis worth doing, maybe not.
Dan.
Justin, I think I heard you said you closed the public input section.
Yes.
We have a technical issue, which is there is a like 30-second delay to YouTube. So, and we forgot to go back to Julie and ask her to read the comments from the chat on YouTube. So that's
There are, just to let you know, I have 13 letters in favor of, and then that's a good point, Dan. Julie, you there?
I am. There were a lot of comments in the chat.
And there's a way either to read them or can you summarize them? There's like for or against.
Most of them are for against. There are a few that are, I mean, most of them are for and there are a few against.
Give us the count.
Okay, hold on.
Given that we have so many that are the letters that we've gotten and that there seem to be more in favor on the YouTube, would anybody be interested in hearing what some of the comments against it are? Just for the record.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to do that, we probably should.
I would like to get both, yeah.
It's in both, yeah. Read a few.
We got 13. Everybody should have the 13 letters, I believe, that were Julie sent out. So.
Yep.
And actually, there was another one on the Waltham site that was, I think there were maybe two, one against, one for.
Okay, the one comment is one woman lives down the street. She does not find the armory to be an eyesore, and she does not support the addition of 23 units in the neighborhood because the neighborhood is already too overcrowded.
Okay.
And also there are far too many people. Let's see, and too many houses in the area that have 3, 4, and 5 cars per house parked on the street. That's all I'm finding for being against it. The rest are for.
And did we have a count of for to against?
Give me a few minutes because there are a lot. Hold on.
Sure. Oh, thank you. So much.
Lot of comments. So hold on.
Oh, okay. So that was 2 against.
Jen, what is the parking situation?
Right, so right now our proposal includes 1.5 spaces per unit, which is pretty good. As Bill said, you know, there will obviously still be some negotiation with potentially the Mass Historic, but also with the zoning board. So the unit count might change. The parking configuration might change. But we do have a design that includes 1.5 spaces per unit.
But how many guest spaces?
That's probably only 1 visitor space. Yeah. Can't have visitors. With cars anyway.
But 1.5 is relatively appropriate for an urban area, is my understanding.
Yes. Now that design does chew up pretty much every blade of grass. So that will be, you know, a little, again, part of the negotiation is, well, if we want to keep some of the green space in front, we're going to lose a few parking spaces. What does that mean? So.
Will you have snow storage also on site?
Nope. I mean, we will have to, right?
You'll have to.
We'll have to. You know, what we do at our other sites is we hire a Bobcat and they take it out on a truck. So it's not ideal, but it can be done.
All those design challenges, I think they end up getting vetted out fairly process. Obviously, we don't want to put forward a $5 million for the project that doesn't work. But I think we've seen, you know, through the analysis already, we've seen that there's something that can happen there. It may not be the ideal for certain things. It is, is there an official MBTA bus stop up on Hope Avenue at the hospital? Would this be a transit-oriented design?
I'm not sure.
I think there is a,
There might be a bus stop on South Street.
Yeah, there definitely is
You have
one.
the
So,
commuter rail just down the road, South Street of Brandeis.
yeah, but it's got to be a certain distance. 40B has a certain, like,
It's 0.5 miles.
is it 5 miles?
point.
0.5.
0.5, yeah. Okay, yeah. So I think that's probably covered.
Okay, I counted 10 people in favor on the
All right.
chat.
On
That's
top of the
23.
13 or so?
Yes.
23 plus. How many are opposed?
I believe there were 2.
Okay. All right. Committee, what's your wishes?
Do you want a motion?
I want something.
I make a motion that we approve the request for $5 million for the Armory project proposed by Metro West Development.
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do a roll call on this one.
All right.
Okay.
Sean,
Hey,
Amanda,
Yay.
Loretta. Loretta? You're
You're
muted.
muted.
You're muted.
Yay.
Bob,
Yay.
Bill,
Yay.
Tom,
No.
Dan, clerk votes yay. Erica
Yay.
and Justin.
No.
just to be clear, mine was a no.
Yours was a nay. Okay. Thank you. So that is 6-3 and it passes.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right.
We will
Good
keep you
luck.
posted. Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is
What is next on the agenda?
the 2021 meeting dates. Everybody got from Julie?
Yes.
Okay. And then old business, the status of the CPC projects. Julie, was that emailed to everybody? The sheets from Ginny Bergen?
Yes, they were included in the email.
Okay, so you should have those. In the Heidi Pond Conservation Area, that was sent to George Darcy and the Law Department, just to let everybody know. I haven't heard from either as far as what the status is on the status of the Heidi Pond. So if anybody has, Dan, have you heard anything?
Nothing I know, nothing new that I know at the moment. I was hoping to get more information, so.
And then you wanted to speak about the webinar, Dan.
Yeah, so everyone that, I sent you the email about the invite for this meeting today, yesterday, and in it I told you about webinars. How many people here have been on a Zoom webinar? Raise their hand.
Hey,
I have.
Many. Okay, that's most of us. Great.
too many.
All right, so there's the difference between a webinar and a Zoom meeting, which is two classes of participants. And one is the panelists, such as we are, that we all are here would see each other just the same. But then the class of participants are called attendees, which you can imagine like they are in a dark auditorium. You can't see them, and they are all muted. So the thing is, you don't hear them and you don't see them, but best part is all the attendees, which can be open totally to the public or anyone, can see the total proceedings. They can also, attendees can chat, and they also can run polls. So like when we wanted to get hands up, ask question like for the application, you know, how many people in favor, we can put out a poll question, how many in favor, and people can say, click it yes, and then you can put out a poll, how many people not in favor. So you can get our audience participation. And then if in the case of people that are in the audience who we want to call up to talk, as in Councilor Paz, then we can actually promote people from attendee on into the Zoom meeting part, like we were bees, like so. And then after they're done speaking, put them back into the audience. So there's a little bit more work for the host, but I've done it once, and I think the model is perfect for a city government committee like this, so that we, instead of people 30 seconds delayed and causing issues, and then we have to have Julie reading it, instead of all that, we can see the chat ourselves right there from everybody, or the polls, etc.
Are they as easy to sign in, Dan?
Oh yeah, you can have it totally open link, or if we want, you can actually put it so that people, an open link to register, but people actually have to sign in with their name and email address, so that we have a registration of who actually came, if we wanted to. Or you can keep it totally open. Well, actually, you have to do email address, because they then get a link to connect up. So it's, yes, very, very easy. That would go out, you know, and then out at least a day in advance or more.
I just got to tell you that the few that I have been on have been a pain to get into as a member, as a committee member, to get on. It's not as simple as us typing a couple of numbers and, you know, we're on. So I don't know if
so the slight difference is that for people to be in the panel as panelists, as you would then be called, would actually send out you'd get invites to the that you would have to say, yes, I'm coming to. So that's a little different, but it's it's one email, but it's directly to you, instead of a global email where I send, you know, to everybody saying, here's the link to use. So, you know, again, you know, another minute, but you know, you can the other thing is, once you have webinar set up, you can use the same make a template, so it's very easy
like a Zoom. Okay.
So if we're in the public meeting, if I'm just a member of the audience,
right,
and I want to speak, how does that work? I raise my hand, I type in the chat, and then Justin calls on me, and you promote me to the webinar view room, and then I appear and I can ask my question. Or I mean, I guess that would be my concern, is to making sure that the public still is, you know, I understand the need to control it, but that the public still has access to the meetings and has access to participate as we establish.
Right. So it becomes very much like they're walking up to the podium, and now they're in the meeting with us. So that's the feature of it, that they can invite them up, and how they would ask. We can basically, I presumably use the chat for that feature. If someone says, you know, anyone who wants to speak, Joseph would say, who wants to speak in favor, who wants to speak against, and during the open part. And somebody said, you know, I want to speak, I would see it in the chat, and I would then promote, you know, find them in the list and promote them to join. And they would say hi, who they are, what their address is, just like they're coming up to the podium.
This may be overkill. Does it make sense for us to test this out, you know, like 2 or 3 of us, so we don't have a quorum, but just, you know, work with Dan offline to kind of see how it works and see how we feel about it? Or like I said, if people are ready to go tonight, I'm fine. I think this is a fine idea, but if there are concerns, maybe we try it out and see how we feel.
I'm willing to run a test between now and February and report back. And it's pretty quick to add the feature to the account. So if we just, you know, go ahead and, you know, perhaps we make a subcommittee, and if a few of us say it works.
Let's not, this is not rocket science. Let's
Nope.
keep it simple.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you a question. How much is it gonna cost?
Oh, that's a very good question. It's let me just pull up the webpage so I'm not making up the number right this second here. Meeting of plans and pricing for the video webinars. That is for 100 attendees, which I'm presuming we wouldn't need any more than 100 attendees. We're talking $40 a month. Billed annually. It's actually then a little cheaper. But
So $450 a year, right?
yes,
Approximately.
400
Okay.
400
Okay.
bill annually, yeah.
So we certainly have the money in the administrative account. So why don't you, I guess, let's cut to the chase. Is there a motion that we could try it? And if we don't like it, then we cancel?
Yeah.
Do we have one free meeting, or one to cancel if?
Yeah. You can turn it on pay for a month and then
Right.
turn it off, and otherwise, then it'll keep billing. So
Do
yeah.
we have any opposition?
Nope.
Tommy?
Nope.
All right.
Bill? Okay. Then make
Yeah.
a motion. Let's do it.
All right.
Motion to approve at least the first month of webinar access for Zoom for the CPC meetings, monthly meetings.
I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. Anything else? And with seeing nothing, I want to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for your time. I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in
February.
Excellent.
Do we need to vote on those meeting dates?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, they could change too, just to let
That's
you
true.
know. So,
That's true.
so anyway, thank you again, everybody.
So we
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
A motion to move.
Yes, I appreciate it. You did a great job.
Motion to
Julie,
close.
thank you.
Do we have to have a motion to stop?
Motion
Oh,
to
yeah.
adjourn.
Yeah, please.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Here a second.
Second.
All in
Second.
favor?
Favor.
Good night,
Aye.
folks.
Happy
Good night.
Thanksgiving.
Justin,
Bye,
don't
happy
Thanks.
Thanksgiving.
Justin,
Happy
don't get
Thanksgiving.
sick. I don't want to have to run this committee.